Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Series 2024 NFL Offseason Predictions. This is the 25th of 32 shows, and this is going to be the New York Jets. We do free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidate, trade candidate, release candidate, extension candidate, draft fit, free agent fit, and a bold prediction for every team. The New York Jets, as we know, is one of the more interesting teams this offseason. Free agents to be: Randall Cobb, Mekhi Becton, Dwayne Brown, Connor McGovern, Bryce Huff, Quentin Jefferson, Chuck Clark, Jordan Whitehead, Bryce Hall, Thomas Morstead, their punter, and Craig Zerline, their kicker. Team needs: backup quarterback, wide receiver, center, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, defensive end, safety. All right, franchise tag candidate, Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff actually had a decent year at the Jets. Very under the radar, and I think they should keep him around. He was a undrafted free agent, and very quietly decent for the Jets this past season. And with a short time in 22 was a really good, but this could be like a buyer's beware situation. That's why I feel like the move is to franchise tag Bryce Huff. But who knows? Maybe it's one of the safeties. They won't do it to Becton. Connor McGovern, maybe. But I think it's probably going to be Bryce Huff. Trade candidate, CJ Uzomah. The Jets have some depth at tight end. Tyler Conklin isn't bad. Jeremy Ruckert made some plays. He's young. Uzomah is a veteran. I think that somebody that misses out on a tight end or needs depth at the position could acquire him and could give up like a 6th or a 7th to get him. So I think CJ Uzomah is a good trade candidate. Maybe Zach Wilson, but he's more likely to be cut than traded, I feel like. I think that other trade candidates on this team, maybe Michael Carter. I could see Jermaine Sherwood and Michael Clemens, maybe. I don't think they'll trade Xavier Gibson. I almost said free agent. Release candidate, CJ Mosley. Big ticket free agent a couple years ago, just hasn't really worked out. And he was actually pretty good this past year, but I feel like he's always injured. And since he signed with the Jets, he really hasn't been the same guy as he was with the Ravens, and he's 31 years old. Other ones, obviously, Zach Wilson is one. DJ Reed, maybe. Maybe Uzomah, if they can't find a trade partner. Wes Schweitzer, the backup center. Laken Tomlinson, the guard that they got in free agency a few years ago. And obviously Alan Lazard, who's another Rodgers cast off from Green Bay, but I don't think they'll do that. So I think Mosley makes some sense. Extension candidate, Elijah Vera Tucker. When healthy, he's really good. He's versatile, and it was just unfortunate that he was one of the few guys on the Jets that got injured this past season. I feel like he got injured in 22 as well. But when he's on the field, he produces. And I think that, albeit not as big as the sample size as other draft mates from that year, I do think he's an extension candidate. The Jets have some decisions next year. Next year they have to pay a bunch of people. So Vera Tucker should be one that they take care of because of the position as well. And that's the only one that I could see for an extension this year. Maybe Michael Carter. We'll see about that, though. Draft fit. Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. That just makes sense. Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown are free agents. So is Billy Turner. They need a tackle. And I think that Fuaga makes a lot of sense with the Jets. If they're lucky, maybe Fasciano. I don't think Joe Alt will drop them. Maybe Fasciano drops. If they don't address receiver, maybe Odunze drops to them. Neighbors won't drop to them. Maybe Brock Bowers drops to them. Who knows? If they lose Bryce Huff, maybe Jared Verse or Leato Lato. If they trade back, Jerzon Newton, maybe. Braylon Trice wouldn't be a bad fit. In terms of second-round guys, I like Chop Robinson a lot. Maybe some of these tackles I could go late first. Tyler Guyton or Jordan Morgan, they could trade up to get. Maybe if one of those guys fall into the second round. Graham Barton would make sense on the Jets as well. Tyler Nubin, because they have a need at safety. So there's a lot of decent draft fits for the Jets. And my free agent fit, this is somebody that I have signing with a different team, but because of the need, it makes sense. Carmen Curl from the Commanders. He's a safety. He'd be an upgrade over what they had. Underrated player over the past several years with Washington. Really good in 22. Took a step back last year, but I still think he's worthy of a payday from Gang Green. Some other possible free agent candidates for the Jets. Trent Brown, Michael Winu, Calvin Ridley. I think that Andre James could be a candidate. Maybe Connor Williams. That would be awesome if they got him. Jonathan Grenard. I like Jonathan Grenard. I think he, on the right team, could fit somewhere. Jadeveon Clowney, but I don't know if they really want to go there. So Darius Smith. Xavier McKinney of the Giants makes sense with the Jets, ironically enough. Andre James makes sense with the Jets. Josh Uche of the Pats makes sense. Leonard Floyd. But there's a lot of guys that are free agents that would make sense for the football Jets. And my bold prediction for the Jets this offseason. The team will acquire Devontae Adams from the Las Vegas Raiders for a 2024 second, a 2024 fourth, and a 2025 third. He's not going to go for as much as the Raiders gave up because he's older and he's making more money. But I still think that the Raiders can get something back for him. This obviously reunites him with Rodgers. This is a Rodgers-oriented move. So you have a big two of Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson in terms of receivers. And you have Breece Hall at running back. And say you draft Fuaga. Maybe you sign like a low-key decent center like Andre James. And then your team's pretty much upgraded. And then you and then the defense, I think, needs to be fixed obviously as well. You could get some guys in the draft or and you obviously have to fix safety as well because you have your two starting safeties going in the free agency as well. So there's a path for the Jets, and this gets into futures and such with them. So their odds are skewed for the Super Bowl because they're banking on Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. They're 30-1 to win the Super Bowl, which is outrageous. To win the AFC, they're 16-1, which is outrageous. The Jets should be like 50-1 to win the Super Bowl, maybe 40-1 out of respect for Rodgers, and maybe 20-1 to win the AFC. Rodgers for MVP is 25-1. That makes sense. So Rodgers at 25-1 makes sense. Breece Hall, Offensive Player of the Year. I want to see what that is. Or any of those guys. Him, Wilson, or let's say if they were to get Devontae. But Breece Hall is the one that stands out to me for Offensive Player of the Year. That would probably be like 60-1, 70-1. If he's like a 100-1 long shot to win the Offensive Player of the Year. I almost said Offensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Player of the Year, I would absolutely take that. Defensive Player of the Year, nobody jumps out to you on defense for the Jets. I know Quincy Williams has impressed, and Quinnen Williams has impressed, but those guys will probably be like 100-1 to win the award. Robert Saleh, Coach of the Year. Oof. That's probably going to be like an overpriced number, like 25-1, although it should be probably 60-1. I swear, if he has shorter odds than Brian Daboll to win Coach of the Year, I'm going to be outraged. And I know that's going to be the case because of people banking on Rodgers to be Rodgers. And Rodgers' comeback Player of the Year is probably going to be like 8-1 or something like that. But I think that Joe Burrow is a better bet to win that award. He's probably going to have this, like him and Kirk Cousins will probably be like the second and third choices in that category. Oh, and the other Defensive Player of the Year candidate on the Jets, how'd I miss this? Sauce Gardner. He's their best player on defense. I completely forgot about him. I was thinking pass rush when I was thinking defense earlier, but Sauce Gardner for Defensive Player of the Year is probably going to be like 25-1, which if it's higher than that, I would actually bet it. I actually really like the possibility of Sauce being Defensive Player of the Year at the right number. That's the one award I would look at for the Jets. And then win total, it's probably going to be 9 because of Rodgers. And I could just have it at an even 9. That's probably where it's going to be. AFC East is probably going to be like plus 240, although it should be like 3-1. I swear, if they have shorter odds to win the division than the Dolphins, I'm going to flip out. Like, I'm just so worried about these futures that come out, and the Jets are going to be, like, short and overvalued everywhere, just like they were last year. But we didn't know Rodgers was going to get hurt. So, we'll see with the Jets. I think they're going to be, like, plus 260 to win that division. The Dolphins will probably be plus 250. They're probably going to be neck and neck because the Dolphins are going to lose a lot of people in free agency. And then people are going to talk themselves into Rodgers and the Jets potentially being the number 2 in that division, with the Dolphins taking a step back. And last thing with the Jets, I think this is a Bill Belichick candidate. I know you'll say Bill hates the Jets more than anything. He does. But they're going to have a coaching opening. Maybe they're more of a Mike Vrabel candidate than a Bill Belichick candidate. But they're certainly going to be among the first teams you think of when you say, oh, this team's going to have a new coach in 2025. I think the Jets are going to be one of the first 3 teams you're going to mention. I think they're more likely for Mike Vrabel than Bill Belichick, but they are a possibility for Belichick if Rodgers sticks around. But if Rodgers doesn't stick around, then they're more likely to be a Vrabel team, which I think is likely whether Rodgers is still there or not because of Belichick's not so fond of the Jets. So that's why I think Bill will avoid the New York Football Jets at all costs. So there you have it for the Jets. Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles.